Hi, welcome to a new episode of Sportsy, Let's Aim Sports. Today we have with us Mihira Khopkar, a girl whose journey started with a dream to be an athlete, and she achieved it by being a national gold medalist in swimming. But she moved on to have another dream to make an impact to sporting community, and that made her a sports and clinical nutritionist. Her being a sports person herself helps her understand the sporting atmosphere, competitive training, as well as the mental makeup that requires for athlete to be successful. Mihira currently guides grassroots to international athletes of various age groups, particularly children from the different sporting backgrounds such as swimming, cricket, football, athletics, cycling, gymnastics, golf, racket sports, etc. Mihira currently is the lead sports nutritionist at Sir H.N. Reliance Foundation Hospital, through which she works very closely with national boxers, weightlifter, track and field athlete, as well as badminton players. She has been handling Reliance Foundation Young Champ as well as Reliance Foundation Youth Sports through her work with Reliance. She's also one of the founding member and joint secretary for the Association of Sports Nutrition and Fitness Science, through which she contributes towards education and awareness regarding nutrition among the budding sports professional. Please welcome a national swimmer, writer, recreational diver, occasional singer, animal lover, and most importantly, a sports and clinical nutritionist, Mihira Khopkar. Hey, hi, Mihira. Great to have you on Sportsy. Let's aim sports. So thank you for being on the platform.
Hi, Siddharth. Thank you for having me. I know that we've been planning to do this since some time, but I'm quite excited to do this. Better late than never.
I'm ready to wait. If people are doing good work in sports, I'm ready to wait for them. And that's what probably it's all about. And
Okay, so that's validation enough. I'm doing some good work in sports.
Yes. So for our viewers and listeners, we have with us Mihira Khopkar, who has been a national level swimmer, and beyond that, she is making an impact in sports industry from a different field called nutrition and diet. She's a sports and clinical nutritionist and currently working with multiple athletes at national and international level, as well as she's a lead sports nutritionist at Sir H.N. Reliance Foundation Hospital, through which she's working on Reliance Foundation Young Champ, Reliance Foundation Youth Sports, and multiple activities. So, Mihira, with all this work that you've been doing with multiple athletes and multiple things, I just want to know first thing, why first give up on swimming, which was where you actually won the national level gold medal, and after that, what is that you felt while doing that were you not getting food enough to come into diet and nutrition?
Like honestly, I don't know how many people know this, but people who know me don't know the fact that I actually did not like swimming. I hated it completely. But my dad thought that it is everybody in the family should know swimming, because for some reason he thought if we were put in a situation where we were supposed to swim, we should all be able to. Okay. So that is how he put me into swimming. And I remember I was three and a half. He used to take me to Mud Island and we used to swim till I don't know. And then he used to, call me back to the shore. And that is how my fear of water went off. Or that is how I became comfortable with the ocean. And then he had a lot of friends who were coaches, swimming coaches. And then that's just how it started. I started swimming and I used to not like it because most of the times I used to just like to play in the pool, but not train as such. And then that happened until I think I started winning medals by 8, 9 years. By 10 years, I had my first nationals and I came back with 3 golds. So that was like the big deal for me also as a kid, because I thought that, oh, everything that I'm doing is giving me some results, some attention. People are congratulating me for what I was doing. So I continued that for some time until 2010, where I trialed for the Commonwealth Games in synchronized swimming. Mm-hmm. And after that, I had a difficult decision to make if I want to pursue swimming completely or I want to choose a profession through which I can contribute something to my swimming fraternity. Okay. And the other one proved a better option to do. So that's when I retired, if I could use that word. And then I landed up doing my bachelor's in dietetics, then master's in sports nutrition.
Okay, so it's tough to understand that somebody retires at the age of 15, 16, 17. But that's fine. I think it's the journey that matters. And as you always call yourself, you're a dreamer and a believer, and everything that you do is every journey that is started with a dream for you. So But what made you pick dietitian, a course in dietitian and being a nutritionist?
So again, honestly, I didn't want to become a nutritionist.
Okay.
So I knew very clearly in my head that I wanted to give back to my sports fraternity. So that was there. And which is why I thought that sports physiotherapy is a field for me. And you
Mhm.
wouldn't believe this, that I was trying to actually go to the University of Indianapolis to do a doctorate in sports physiotherapy. But it didn't work out because I couldn't support myself financially at that point. And I think I was very fortunate that that didn't work out, because
Mhm.
I always believe that whatever has happened is almost meant to be. And nutrition, and then when that didn't work out, I was sitting and thinking, what would I do? How would I do anything in sports science? Because there was nothing at that point until I was browsing and this nutrition course came along, and I knew that there was a master's in sports nutrition. That
Mhm.
is how I said, let's invest my bachelor's 3 years into nutrition, and then I can
Mhm.
specialize in sports nutrition, and then I can be a sports nutritionist for athletes.
Oh, nice. So I think everything you have been doing is called serendipity, right? It's like the swimming happened, dietitian nutrition just happened. But the good thing is the bottom line stayed, which is sport. I think that,
Exactly.
yeah, that's wonderful. So Meera, as you know, our channel is viewed by a lot of athletes, young kids, parents, and everybody. So since and you're the first nutritionist who is coming on my platform, so I think I want to start with busting some myths about nutrition. So what are the biggest myths that are there about sports nutrition?
I think there are many, but the first one is that I can't succeed without supplements. I need supplements to succeed. I think that's the first. And whether it's parents or young kids from elite athletes, everybody believes that they need to be on a supplement program to succeed. But I
Mhm.
think that's not true. All you need is a really holistic diet which forms a great foundation. And
Right.
if that is set, and when I mean a good foundation, it starts with what the mother has eaten when she's been pregnant,
Oh,
with
wow.
with the right breastfeeding practices, with what you've eaten during the child and adolescent phase till what you've been eating now. Everything that you put in your body is an investment, and that investment gives you results as you explore different avenues in life, whether it's sports or anything else. So without that foundation, it's very difficult to climb up the ladder. So the first step is to build good holistic nutrition foundation. From there we explore things and see what works for you, what doesn't work for you. And taking a supplement, the most common one, I call it a protein tradition. Everybody
Mhm.
thinks they need to take a whey protein supplement to
Yeah.
feel amazing. So not necessary, it's not necessary that you need to do that. But I think if you realize what your body requires and you fuel your body with the right nutrition through food, you don't need any supplements.
Okay. So I think first myth is busted that you need supplements. But to support that, what you said that okay, something is beyond as if I want to be an athlete, something is beyond my control. What has been fed into me. So what for so long till the time I can start taking a decision, or I meet somebody like you who can actually guide in the process. So how to basically undo those things?
Well, again, it takes that much time also. So
Mhm.
for example, if you've there have been years of not eating the right food, which happens honestly with a lot of the tribal community who are
Mhm.
also very talented as athletes, and they've been quite undernourished and malnourished. Now to take care of that, it equally takes a decent amount of time,
Yeah.
because there's so many deficiencies that come in there. And in that scenario, you may have to do mega supplements to take care of a deficiency, which is fine. But in order to prevent a deficiency, should you take a supplement? No, you can manage it with good food. But if you're deficient, then you must take a supplement to take care of the symptoms and then future impacts.
Right. So this again, I'm probably just taking cues from whatever I have spoken to my son or his friends and everything who are into sports at that particular age. Because nowadays the kids are more aware of what they want to eat. If they want to win particular area, and they suddenly start taking decision that I have to lose weight. I see some fat, I have to lose weight. And then they go on the crash thing. It's about the mental willpower and multiple things. So how much is holistic food is required for a growing kid and up till what age, and how does nutrition play a role at multiple ages till they become professional, say 18. Till 18, how does it matter? And beyond 18, probably we can just consider one.
Correct. So basically, let me put it this way. Throughout your growing age, you have something called as growth spurts, right? You have like something called as peak height velocity, peak weight velocity. So there are these two age ranges till 18, where you will suddenly shoot up in height and suddenly shoot up in weight. Now that can happen because everything is changing in this decade as such, that it can happen anywhere between the ages of 7 and 12 and 13 and 16, if I broadly put up a range. And the girls experience menstrual cycle at that point. The boys are maturing as well, so there are a lot of physical and reproductive changes that take place at that point. And that means that there is decent deposition of fat at that point to start these processes. And many people suddenly think, oh, I'm putting a lot of fat and I need to do something about it. Most parents are also not aware, because we are all so health conscious today that we've considered fat as the demon. So little bit fat we see in a child's body, we suddenly start panicking. But sometimes that is the nature's way of protecting your internal organs during the growth phase. So that some amount of fat increase during that spurt is absolutely okay, because that sets in your hormonal balance, sets in period cycle for girls. So it's very crucial at that point. Then as you grow further and you're involved in some activity or sport, there's automatic energy expenditure to take care of any excess fat, because your body is quite smart enough to hold on to just the right amount of fat that can take care of the body processes and use the rest of the fat as energy. And as kids, they are more comfortable and they're more used to using fat as a source of energy than we as adults. So we will never usually land up having an obese kid unless you are not eating well, you're eating a lot of junk food, or you're not being physically active at all. So I would say having some amount of fat is crucial in this growing phase. And eating right in terms of holistic nutrition is very important, because kids are today also very inquisitive. And if you explain to them, so we call it cognitive behavioral therapy. So if I convince you that if you eat this, this is what's going to happen in your body, and that is how it's going to help you, kids are smart enough today to understand. And they're ready to use junk food only once or twice in a week, for example, but they're ready to be consistent as long as they are convinced that it will help them. So it's a lot of education, I'd say.
Interesting. I think yes, one is education, one is myth about fat. I think having fat is bad is something that has been told to us and shown to us by every possible advertisement happening everywhere. So I think that is something, a good point that you spoke about, because I get to see that everybody is obsessed with the good physique, 6 packs, 8 packs, or whatever, how many more packs that we can have. But again, we have seen people like Ranatunga with one family pack, or we have seen Rohit Sharma amazingly fit, but it's not like he's lean like what Kohli or KL is. So how does the nutrition plays role per sport, and how do you actually work on every sport, or and inside that every age group, to have a definite model for that?
Yes. So basically, how it works is, it works with understanding the nutrition for a particular sport. Like, for example, when I talk about, let's say, football, I will have to look at football as a sport. Then I would have to look at positions and the demands of those positions. For example, the goalkeeper needs to be tall, broad, so that he's able to cover most of the goalpost by his jumps, actions. Or if you look at the midfield, he needs to be like an endurance athlete who's able to sustain a decent speed, cover that 10-12 kilometers in a match. So these specificities of positions in sport will help me understand the nutrition requirements for that sport and that position. After that is done, I will then have to interact with the coach to figure out what is the training routine, which season are we in, what is the goal of this training, is it to boost endurance, is it to build strength, what is it. Then I'll have to further tailor make my nutrition based on the goal. Then I will sit with the individual and build out individual goals where age, gender, their individual goals come into picture. So for example, if it's age, I would want to look at if this kid is growing well or not. And then is he eating well as much as he's expending? I will have to see if it's a female athlete and she's a midfielder, for example, in football, she perhaps needs more iron because
Yeah.
she's losing a lot of iron during her menstruation, and now she's also into endurance as such as a midfielder, so she needs more endurance and oxygen carrying capacity. So maybe that I want to consider. Three, I want to look at whether they have any individual goals, whether it is muscle mass building, whether it's body fat loss, whether it's the gut. Many kids are not okay to eat a lot before the training session
Yeah.
because they feel very heavy and they can't move, they throw up sometimes. So these are like little things which make every body of an athlete quite different than the others. So even if you had two midfielders of the same age and same gender and the same height and the same weight, they would still have different diets because their genetic makeup is different.
Oh wow. And that's what makes you a specialist, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. But how do you think that things have changed? Because I was just reading about Tendulkar saying that in 2002 he asked the question, "What is laptop doing in the dressing room?" From there to having one person running around, having being a physio to dietitian to nutrition, doing all the possible job, to now everybody doing a specific role. How the things have improved, and is it a need of the market or it is a want of an athlete?
um so we made it without nobody, right? I didn't have a nutritionist, we didn't know all of these things either.
Exactly.
So I think the only but your mom was a nutritionist, my mom was a nutritionist, my dad was my mental coach, for example. So these things
Right.
were there, but they were just coming through a lot of parental support than anything. Today I feel it's a boon and a bane. The reason being that it's all the way the athlete takes it. So if the athlete takes advantage of this holistic sports science and medicine support, nothing like it, he will only benefit from it.
Correct.
But at the same time, if you become too dependent on these services, you will be that pampered kid or pampered athlete who would want, without a release you can't compete in the next competition, or
Correct.
without a certain supplement you can't compete in the next competition. And I don't know, this is so I read this book, The Archer. I don't know if you've read it or not, but there's this very nice line. So the archer is explaining to another archer, saying that so basically the both of them are competing to see who's the best archer in the whole world. And the other competitor really bows out nicely and he hits the target, and he's like, I'm the best in the world, now it's your chance, you prove yourself. And then he goes, he climbs to a mountain, and there's a small bridge in the middle of nowhere. He goes on that bridge, stands in the middle of that wobbly bridge, and then hits the target. And he says that irrespective of the situation, I still continue to be the best archer ever.
Oh,
So you can have the best sports science and medicine support, but even if you don't have it, it's your mind that you need to train to deliver your best irrespective of the situation. And again, sorry, I may be talking too much, but the other example would be the Olympics. So
you are the guest here, so you are supposed to talk.
I have a habit of talking too much also, anyways. So just to also highlight, for example, so the Olympics happened in Tokyo, right? Most of the Europeans now could not adjust well with the humid climatic conditions there, and therefore many of them perhaps didn't perform at their best at that point because they just couldn't adapt themselves that well. Now I don't know what you call it. Should they have come, I don't know, more 10 days in advance to get adapted? Or should we just say that you need to perform irrespective of the situation? Or there was not enough sports science and medicine support at that point? I mean, you can't point these things out, but just to give you an example that perhaps you can be the best irrespective of whatever services you gather, as long as your mind is in the place to deliver your best.
Excellent. So I think your answer about the mind is driving me to next question. And now you have come from stomach to the mind.
Yeah.
The connection has been established. So uh, usually the nutrition is related to, as we know, it's related to your physical health. But it, as you've been talking about the mental health. So how does what we eat and what do we think, or how do we absorb the whole thing actually helps the mental conditioning? What is the relation there?
Yes. I mean, classically, we've heard about food equals mood. or the what is it, the road to a man's heart or whatever is through the food. Things like
Yes.
that we've been hearing all the time, because food makes you feel good. And if
Correct.
it's the food that you like, it definitely makes you feel good. So for example, there have been situations where people are extremely stressed, and then when they grab a bar of chocolate, they feel good because
Yes.
it increases endorphins, and you start feeling your mood starts changing. At the same time, when you have a dinner meal that is heavy on protein and carbs, like if you had, or if you have a big bowl of rice, you start feeling sleepy because there's serotonin which increases in your brain, and it tells you
Mhm.
to relax, calm down, and go to bed. Which is why many people who have too much of rice at lunch are underproductive later in the
Right.
second half of the day. So food definitely plays an important role in terms of the way it connects to the mind. At the same time, there are different instances. For example, what you eat just before training, what you eat just after training also has an impact on your mind. For example, people train in the evening and they have like a coffee before their training session, and then they are owls throughout the night because they just can't sleep because of the caffeine content. So all of these little ingredients play a very important role in terms of triggering certain neurotransmitters in the brain, and that elicit responses that are dependent on sleep, excitability, calmness, and all of those things. So I feel again, individual responses are so varied in themselves. Like for
Yeah.
example, if you give caffeine to somebody who's a usual caffeine coffee drinker, he'll probably need coffee to sleep. But
Yeah.
I have been somebody who has never had coffee ever in my life, and if you give me coffee, I probably will be on a high and jumping around.
Right. Right. Oh, okay. Right. But I like the thing, the food equal to mood. I think that makes a lot of sense because that's what triggers a lot of thing. And you should know in the current world, I think with the everything happening around, we should know what how to keep the nice mental balance, and for that what kind of food that we're supposed to eat. So with that, it's last 1.5 years, everybody has all the athletes specifically have struggled. Everybody has struggled, but let's talk about competitive athlete, and you've been working with them.
Yeah.
So while working with these experienced athletes or professional athletes, what has been the biggest challenges that you have faced? Let's say last 1.5 year is a good example that we can talk about. What are the biggest challenge that you have faced, and what have been your learning, that how have you evolved as a nutritionist?
Honestly, nothing major has changed in the way I work as such, because nutrition is something that can happen very conveniently remotely as well. Like we do these video sessions, and I can talk to you and I can help you understand what plan you should follow. But I think the last 1.5 years has been a challenge per se, because there have been more sessions that I'm doing with these athletes. One, because they're all over, like somebody's at NIS Patiala, somebody's at Sai Delhi, but the whole major challenge has been that these guys have put on weight. Their
Right.
body composition has changed, their body fat percentage has increased because they weren't able to train. Whatever little they were able to do was in their four walls in the room, and that was not enough as an expenditure. So, but they were still eating the typical mess food. So that made them put on weight, put on body fat percentage. And for the first 3-4 months, that was the problem, until the second half of the year is where we worked on changing that body composition, so that when these quarantine protocols for training at different science centers started off,
Mhm.
then they were able to begin that expenditure, and they were able to be ready for that kind of training. So my job majorly throughout the pandemic here was to just balance body composition, because you couldn't do anything. Like I would have used that opportunity to do blood tests, because it was almost like an off season for
Right.
everybody, and see if there's anything that we need to take care of and things like that. But couldn't do anything at all.
Right.
So the only thing I had was their subjective feedback. So
Mhm.
that is where I understood, or the biggest learning was that you can do 10,000 tests, but it sometimes does not equate to what the athlete actually feels and comes back
Right.
and tells you. And the biggest goal of a nutritionist or any health professional for that matter is to understand the athlete and his body so well that irrespective of these fancy tests also, it's like our doctors, physicians who've been family doctors who've been
Yeah.
with us for 20 years. They don't ask us to get tests done, they just know us, they know our history. That is how in-depth individual information we need to gather, so that we are able to help them as an expert and not be dependent on 10,000 things which may or may not be available in circumstances like these.
Okay, interesting. I think you're making different challenge. What is it? Different points to help work on different aspects of athletes' life and the thing. And yes, people can afford to have the professionals can afford to have the professional people like you to support them. But a lot of myths that we want to talk about is support is basically the young kids. And with the young kids, I just want to come to the point where you work very closely with Reliance Foundation. And that is one place which is one of the prominent place in India who's supporting a lot of kids at different level. Uh, Reliance Foundation Young Champ has got like I know that first program because of my son being there, but there also get to see so much of diversity. So at that particular age, at 12, 13, 14, 15, the diversity of kids, are these kind of things possess different challenges for you as a nutritionist?
Absolutely. Like, just to connect the previous question, the blood test one, for example, like I can't easily recommend blood tests for kids, because two kids will cry in there because not
Yeah.
wanting to be injected, you know. So these are like little challenges that you face. At the same time, they're kids, you know, they
Mhm.
will want to enjoy a burger at some point. They're gonna be fussy because they're used to the comfort of home and
Yeah.
family and home food, and it is but natural for them to not like certain foods. Plus, at young champs or even the youth sports that we have in Odisha, we have an athletics academy there. Everybody comes from different states. In India is such a diverse country. They all come with their own ethnic cultural meals. So somebody likes rice more, somebody likes parathas more, somebody likes this dal more, somebody likes that more. And it is absolute challenge to balance everything off, which is why what we are starting now eventually is having like a cultural menu, so that everybody is satisfied. One day you get everything that is in Tamil Nadu, one day you get everything that is in Maharashtra, one day you get everything that is in the Northeast. So you
Mhm.
have these, so everybody is happy to eat at least one of their meals in once a week, and they get to learn and enjoy the other meals. But I think, like I said earlier, it's a lot about cognitive behavioral therapy.
Mhm.
Because I remember in my early days, I had a 6-year-old kid who was a swimmer at that point, and he wasn't recovering well. So his mother got him to me for consult, and I had to convince him after I realized that he's a big fan of Salman Khan. So I had to convince him, saying that if you want to have a body like Salman Khan and six packs and all, then you need to eat this. And that was his. That's how he understood. And then apparently they had this thing in school where, you know, their tiffin box, the teacher should check their tiffin box, and if it's healthy they get some points or something. And he landed up being so obsessed with Salman Khan and I want to eat this, all of that, that he won the, you know, best or healthy eating award or something, you know. So it's a different it's a different technique with every individual. But like I said, it's an experience. When you come and sit with me, it's going to be an experience. It's
Right.
not about me giving you a diet plan, because I feel that without me having a connect with you and understanding who you are, what you like, what your body is like, I won't be able to make an impact in your life.
Interesting. I think makes sense. I think you spoke about the diversity, managing diversity through giving their own food because they're staying in hostel, they're young kids, and probably giving them reward that okay, if you want to be like Salman Khan, eat this. And I probably for footballers, Ronaldo has made life easy.
Yes.
Uh, so I think that is also one part of it. Uh, but okay, so while you're talking about this and on diversity, I just had one question, which is again probably one of the big question always about the veg and non-veg. Uh, so, what is your take on this kind of? Obviously, you're going to give provide food as per the kids' habit and the diversity and the background. But is there something that balances in between the veg and non-veg food?
Again, I would say it's sports and individual specific.
Mhm.
I say sports specific, for example, just to give an example and make a point.
Yeah.
If this athlete was a weightlifter, I would never recommend him to be a vegetarian, because
Mhm.
I know the amount of wear and tear his muscles go through. And I know that animal protein is a good quality protein that he or she needs. So I will never compromise on that. But if this athlete was, let's say, a midfielder, or was an endurance athlete, I may be okay if he was a vegetarian athlete, because the protein requirements are only not as high as a weightlifter. Therefore, they
Correct.
are very easy to meet with a plant-based diet as well. Having said that, it is very much possible to achieve success on a plant-based diet. Maybe that would have to be supported with certain supplements if you progress at that level of eliteness. But it's possible to be a vegetarian and be able to compete as well. Which can happen in scenarios where athletes or individuals make a conscious choice of being plant-based for climatic changes or for
Yeah.
animal
Or
cruelty.
Virat calling it vegan. Virat becoming completely vegan.
Correct, absolutely. So it is their ethical choice that they have made, their conscious choice, and I am not then supposed to change that, because that is their views and opinions about how they want to lead their life. But well, can we manage the protein through a vegetarian meal plan? We can try, but if it does not work with food, then we may have to supplement the diet with a protein supplement to balance it off.
Okay, interesting. So I'll just one more question on the same line is like we have multiple diets in market, right? It is like from dikshits to ketos to vegan to plant based to all sort of diets that we have, uh, and people start following those because of some celebrities doing it. But
Yes.
where how important it is to understand that okay, विराट कोहली ने किया ठीक है लेकिन is it going to suit me or no? So how important it is for people to understand that okay, if you want to follow something, first do the thorough research about your body type and all those things. So because people are going to follow the celebrities specifically, so how does that, what is your take on that?
I'm just going to carry forward with exactly what you said. Virat Kohli is on a vegan diet, right? So should I be following a vegan diet? The first question that should come to is, am I Virat Kohli?
Okay.
Because because you don't know, none of us share the same genetic makeup. Well, we may have group of people who may do better on a vegan diet, a group of people who may do well on a paleo diet. But how do you know which group do you fall in?
Correct.
You don't know that. And unfortunately, so we have nutrigenomics, so we have the genetic testing available today, but it is not developed as much as it should be to give us complete information about who we are through our genetics. It's not that updated, so we can't rely on that. So we don't know, basically. The only way to know is to perhaps try things in the off season or figure something out in the off season if your intention is correct. If my intention to do intermittent fasting is for weight loss, it won't work, because intermittent fasting is almost like a lifestyle,
Right.
that you want to adopt, because weight loss is a byproduct, and the other benefits are very diverse and very huge as an impact. So I feel after the documentary that came up on Netflix
Yes,
about
on Netflix.
veganism, I had so many calls the next day that, ma'am, I saw this documentary and the inflammation drops and I want to recover well. And, Arnold is also promoting veganism and all that. And I want to be on a vegan diet. And it was, see, as a nutritionist, I'm also acting like a counselor. So I can't
Yeah.
directly say, no, you can't do that. So I have to convince the person in a way that, okay, but if you've read about it like that, haven't you benefited with something like you've been doing already with an animal based diet? But if you still feel you have to follow this, let's try it in the off season, see if it works for you. If it
Right.
works for you, we may consider it. And I've done that with a few athletes, because some of the
Okay.
athletes are extremely educated and they're constantly researching things, and you won't believe, some of them wanted to make a conscious decision of becoming vegan. They couldn't sustain a vegan diet. They came up with deficiencies of iron, B12, folate, and D, for example. Then we had to do supplementation. They were anyways doing an artificial supplement, because you changed your diet to a vegan diet. Then at the same time, this person said that I want to balance it off. So I am also a pescatarian. Neither am I a non-vegetarian, like a hardcore, nor
Uh-huh.
I am a vegan. So
Okay.
I have dairy, eggs, and fish. That is my protein that comes, to support me. So then you always need to find a midway if somebody has, conscious thoughts about following a dietary habit. But in terms of whether it helps you perform or not, you can trial that in the off season, but only if it suits you. and only if it makes sense to do a particular diet for that. Like a keto cannot be done by a weightlifter because
Correct.
you need carbs to lift. If you don't have carbs to lift, then you're not going to be able to lift at all. So it has to have some logic
Yeah.
before we choose that diet, and then you need to trial it to see if it works at all. If it does, then we see how to go about it.
And yeah, and I think sustainability of diet is something very important. It's like there are a lot of crash courses and everything can be done, but sustainability is something important as per your body type. And I think this is a long topic where you can take a master class. Let's not get into that. And for that, I think there is the brand that you follow, that mark. MihiraKhopkar.com, on that is a mark, that
Yes.
brand you follow, so people can actually reach out to you
Yes.
on that to get more details. Just on the closing remark, what is your message to the parents of young athletes, and what is your message to the young athletes who probably do not have access to the nutritionist right now? So I just want to have the message to those people who probably do not know where to reach out to the nutritionist and all. What is your message?
Simply put, eat घर का माँ के हाथ का बनाया हुआ खाना.
Okay.
That is the simplest message and simplest advice I would like to give. It doesn't matter if you're having quinoa or you're having, some fancy item. If you have your bhakri, bhaji, and dal, you are sorted for life. So I feel, so two three things. One, as parents, perhaps don't push your child too much into sports as such. Let the child explore and figure his or her own way into it. And two, all you need to do is just balance his needs by giving him wholesome food. So whether that's fruits, whether that's vegetables, which I know are a task, but hide them in cutlets, in parathas, in theplas, in the rice, whatever you can. Balance a protein in every meal. So our dal, our dahi, our buttermilk, lassi, paneer, chicken, eggs are all good options that you can balance your overall protein intake. Put a protein in every meal. If you're doing a sandwich, put an egg. If you're doing pasta, add some cheese. If you're doing, if it's a typical Indian thali, let there be some curd. It's very easy to manage it. But the simplest advice is घर का माँ के हाथ का खाना, and you should be sorted.
Excellent. I think that is something that when the kids need to understand, because now they have access to so much of content, they are getting carried away by all those things. So I think as long as this message comes out, is wonderful. And I know that yes, Mihira is a dreamer and a believer. So on that line, on the closing note, what is your dream?
To be honest, Sid, this whole year has been quite a transformation year for me in terms of my vision. And I feel that at the end of the day, I want to be of service. And I've been in a profession like this where I'm able to give something, whether it's knowledge, whether it's creating an impact. As long as I'm able to create a positive impact in somebody's life, I think my life's been meaningful. So that is what I will aim to do.
And how do you get so much of wisdom at this a young age?
I think it is all the books that I'm reading. No, but so basically, I read a lot of books this last year, and I think the pandemic helped as well in having me this realization, because what is our ikigai? What is our purpose in life? And I think we're all here. So one of the very nice lines that Gaur Gopal Das mentions is that we are not human beings. We are spiritual beings in a human world. So we should not forget that, because at the end of the day, we need to create a positive impact and help people, be of service, and create your joy by giving something back to your community. And if you're able to do that, then I think your life will be meaningful.
And that's how you will make a mark as well. The MARK, that's your brand. Excellent, Mihira. Wonderful talking to you. I think there will be, I'm sure there are a lot of kids or parents are going to get some good advice, or it's not only advice about just getting some idea about what it is. And for them, anybody wants to reach out, it is mihirakhopkar.com, and the details will be there in the video as well. And I would love to host you again on another specific topic and inside the nutrition and dietitian kind of thing. But for now, thank you, and wish you all the best. Take care and stay safe.
Thank you, Sid. It was a pleasure talking to you. And I'm sorry if I overwent in terms of the time, because, I just went talking for a bit in certain questions, but I absolutely loved this topic.
As you said, food brings mood. So you were talking about food. So it was a good mood.
Awesome. Perfect way to.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for liking and thank you for sharing. But please do subscribe to our channel Sportsy Says and help us spread the word about Sportsy. We go with the same handle Sportsy Says across all the social media platforms and podcasts.